Hello everyone. Welcome to BB101 Molecular and Cellular Biology. Cells are fundamental units of life. The tiny microscopic structure is composed of number of organelles. Each cell type has distinct characteristic features. The cell is made up of basic organic molecules like carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, etc. In this lecture, Professor Srivastava shall walk you through the cells, describing its various components, mentioning the characteristics of different types of cells.
Very good afternoon, everybody, all the students. Welcome to BB 101 course. Of course, welcome to IT Bombay, first of all, and this course of BB 101, Molecular and Cellular Biology module. As we had one interactive session where I had mentioned to you, this course has 3 modules. The first module about MCB is going to finish till MedSem. And after that, you have quantitative biology and biomedical engineering. Today, we are going to talk about few basic introduction as well as a tour of a cell. First, I'd like to talk to you that why this course, why we are offering BB101 course to engineers, which of the properties are associated with the life, and then we'll talk about cell, its organelle, and different properties. Let's first think about the first learning objective. Why biology for engineers? All of you are engineering aspirant. That's why you chose to go to engineering discipline and join IT Bombay. And again, why you have to study biology? I'm sure this question has come to your mind. And we thought to discuss that before we actually jump into the basic concepts. So first of all, if you look at broadly, just don't imagine you are in which profession. Think about many things which are happening around us. All the time you are hearing, there is a smog issue coming, lot of, the various type of natural calamities are happening, pollution, global warming, climate change, natural disasters. All of these things are happening all of the time, and which is resulting into many type of public health issues, lot of biodiversity loss, lot of new strains are developing. Of course, we have seen COVID-19, and likewise in the malaria or tuberculosis, many drug-resistant strains are developing. So all of these things are, equally affecting all of us. The question comes, who should solve this problem? So let me just take this poll and see, who should be responsible for taking this kind of ideas forward. So let me take a quick view from you. Like, what do you think? Who is responsible for solving these major issues? All right, so many of these problems which we are talking, of course, no single expertise can actually try to resolve them completely, right? As you all appreciate, there is a limitation of how much engineers, how much biologists, how much clinicians can actually contribute. I'm not sure why nobody has given poll for the clinician. Let me share you the results of the poll. So most of you think, interdisciplinary approach is required. Quite a few, of course, you are all passionate about engineering, so it's logical that you are thinking engineers can solve all the problem. As well as many of you are now intended to learn biology, so you think biologists can do that. But of course, this will require a new discipline, which is more interdisciplinary approach, where we think problems at a different scale, right? And that's where a lot of these type of new courses, new programs are coming up, which is trying to inculcate the idea that give exposure of these concepts at early stage of your career, so that when you are growing and you are advancing in your career, can you try to take some basic concept and apply your expertise of engineering tools and try to solve some of these major problems. So one field which has really seen the huge success of engineers, taking motivation from the nature is the bio-inspired engineering or biomimicry. I'll show you a couple of examples. First, let's look at this particular bird. I'm sure it comes to your mind, it is kingfisher. So if you look at the beak of kingfisher, this provides very sharp beak, an ability to kingfisher that it can splash in the water very silently and it can catch the fish. So that is something which actually gives it more efficiency to catch its food, right? A bird watcher, an engineer, Iji Nakatsu from Japan, he was very fond of bird watching, but by profession he was an engineer. So he made observation that okay, so silently, kingfisher can go and do the catch the fish because of the shape of the beak, and got inspiration from this and tried to model a train, a bullet train, a Shinkansen train in Japan, so that when earlier the train used to pass from the tunnel, it makes so much sound when it passes from that, and it was very difficult for people living around to cope up with that sound. With this kind of new model beak shape, super fast train, that really resulted into very quiet train. And this particular bullet train is now one of the example in whole world with the speed, with the efficiency, with the energy conservation. So what lessons were learned from Kingfisher really resulted into quiet train, less electricity usage and travel faster. Imagine that one small observation could make such a huge difference. Look at this beautiful flower, lotus. I'm sure you all admire that when we look at this in the water, right? How beautiful the flower is. You may have also made observation that it remains dry despite its floating in the water, because of the the leaf surface has lot of gaps and the crevices which captures air on the rough leaf surface area, and as a result becomes very hydrophobic, and all the water makes the water droplets and floats from that side. A similar this particular phenomenon was observed by a company, Green Shield, which tried to come up with a new paint which is the based on the lotus effect to offer solutions in the waterproofing. So again, think about situation like places like Mumbai and many places where if you live when there is so much rain happens, you need the buildings which can stay longer with these paints and achieve higher water and stain repellency. So again, some of these things could be very valuable if one could make these minor observations, but actually apply that towards some product development. Now look at these huge buildings which require so much infrastructure, so much air conditioning, so much electricity to illuminate and to keep it cool. Also think about these when you go to the forest, you might have seen these kind of termites places when termitorium, which where all these termites live. And actually they make very nice house for themselves. They keep it very cool inside because they have a lot of holes from which the the hot air moves away, and the inside it remains cool. A similar observation was made by Mick Pierce, who designed this particular building shown on the right side, which is the East Gate in Zimbabwe, modeled on the self-cooling mounts of termite basis. And that building is one of the example how much efficiency you can achieve by reducing the overall usage of energy. Almost 10% energy is used less for ventilation and air conditioning in this particular huge building. Of course, there are many examples. Like you can look at these beautiful dolphins, right? I'm sure you've seen some dolphin shows. Dolphins, they have the abilities of communicating to their family members or to other individuals up to 25 kilometers away, because they have a unique ability of transmitting these high frequencies, which can relay their messages, and from very long distance, it could be heard. A company, Evologics, based on this phenomenon, they have tried to develop many devices, including high performance underwater communication and sonar system, underwater robotics, and various type of other devices. Even in Indian Ocean, the high performance underwater modem for data transmission is currently being employed for tsunami alert system. So imagine these kind of observation are actually, in reality, it is being used again for many kind of various issue which we see in the ocean for alert from tsunamis. It can be very useful. This beetle, which is living in the desert area, do not have to worry about the technical terms here, but this particular desert beetle has the ability that in the desert area in the morning when there is a fog, it can take some of the moisture at the morning and roll those droplets to bring to its mouth to fill its water requirements. This particular observation was made by one of the IIT Bombay alumni at MIT, who developed this particular device, which looks like fence-like meshes, which is like this particular Nami desert beetle. And then near this particular fence, they kept many of the buckets so that in the morning hours, the pure water can be stored. And that has really helped a lot of people in the arid conditions to meet their drinking water requirements. Again, these kind of observations could result into such big issues of even having the water supply in the desert area. So I'm sure that by now you are convinced that by making sharp observations, studying the nature's creation elements, and getting inspiration from those, there's been many successful examples where engineers have tried to develop and design the models to really come up with the new devices, new solution, and really try to solve some of the very complex human problems. But even if you're still not convinced, there are many more examples. I cannot go in great detail for all of them, but just to flash few more, gecko technology, based on the lizard's limb, if you see, lizard can climb up on the wall anywhere because of the unique shape of their limbs. Now, similar kind of phenomenon being followed, and that work was done by Robert Full, where he published and shown in PNAS that how the gecko effect can be used to model the artificial limbs which can work for the Spider-Man who can really, climb up on the wall, right? So these kind of things are reality. There is a new DNA sequencing technology, nanopore, which again, looks for how a DNA sequence, ATGC of the DNA, how you can sequence that. There are many sequencing technologies available, but it's a very handy and small device which looks by tracking how an electrical current change as the nucleic acids are flowing from the protein nanopores, making observations from the protein shape and trying to come up with a new type of DNA sequencing methodology. Sunflower looks beautiful, but in Dubai, they have made this solar power plant, which is of sunflower shape, to look at how the role of these mirrors could reflect the rays of sun and then generate the central generator tower, which is like the floral shape and can be very important for the solar power plant. Aquaporins, these are proteins which are present in all the living cells, and they only allow the water molecules to pass. A company has made many devices and water purifying products inspired from the aquaporins. Photosynthesis, this is the unique ability of the leaf. I'm sure you have all studied about photosynthesis. But imagine that there are a group of scientists and engineers who have made these sharp observations, and one of them is Melchiori, who developed these various type of products, including carbon bioconverter technology, to mimic the photosynthetic effects on the wall and all the lights and lamps and other devices to decrease the carbon dioxide, to produce more clean gas and fight against global warming. So there are many successful examples like this, which is highly inspiring that basic observation could result into so many useful type of products. But still, if you're not convinced, I'm sure you're all aspirant to work in the big companies, right? Big giant companies after you graduate from IIT Bombay. Google is, of course, one of the key choice, right? But Google has now major focus into many bio projects, including the Google Brain project, Google smart contact lenses. Imagine on these contact lenses, there are sensors which could sense the glucose level and give you immediately alarm on your watch or on a mobile that now your glucose level is fluctuating, right? Imagine that every glucose sensor also have barcode. When people are passing and crossing each other, they could recognize based on those barcodes. All those seem fancy, but these are actually already reality which is happening. IBM is coming with many type of big projects. A lot of innovations are happening on the neurosciences area to do research about brain. They already have this Watson, IBM Watson, which is already like a supercomputer, works for many problems. And even in recent COVID time, it has shown its utility and a lot of contribution was made. At IIT Bombay, like you'll be surprised that, despite being one of the key engineering institute, IIT Bombay also has a large number of faculty members who are involved in doing the interdisciplinary bioresearch. And 15% of faculty, they are actually working in the interface of biology and other engineering disciplines. This pie chart shows you that, the bioscience, bioengineering is the primary department where a lot of research is happening, followed by chemistry, chemical engineering. But there are many other departments where is so much bio-related interdisciplinary focus is happening towards more of the bioengineering and biomedical devices. Additionally, we also have a healthcare consortium at IIT Bombay, which is linking the different departments of IIT Bombay, followed by various institutions around us in Mumbai, different hospitals like Tata Memorial Hospital, KEM Hospital, Hinduja Hospital, several companies, and that actually provides an ecosystem where you can, learn the actual problems from the clinicians, their ground reality, what is the challenge they have. Try to come up with your innovation and your innovative solutions. Do work out on those along with industries and then try to bring back the solution to the hospitals. Again, this can be very interesting and novel way. And many times even students like to do some internship and get some exposure directly working in the biolabs here or even going to the hospitals to really learn from the clinicians about the real need of the where that can be involved. All right, so many faculty members at IIT Bombay, they are doing a very cutting edge research of developing many devices, which is already having a lot of market. One shown here is about a mobile based diagnostic system for urine analysis as well as the blood sugar test, prosthetic development to look at the artificial limbs, mobile based diagnostic system to look at sickle cell anemia. And of course, I cannot really talk a lot about so much innovation happening around us here, but please visit Department of Biosciences and Bioengineering website and other faculty members website at IIT Bombay to really see what is the cutting edge research happening, not only just, towards the basic understanding, but also towards commercialization and deploying those to society. Many of the alumni from IIT Bombay, students like you who joined and started the journey at IIT Bombay, eventually, moved in their career. Many of them are in US as a faculty member. And few examples which I'm showing you here are the faculty members in US now who have been at IIT Bombay earlier as a student, and now they are pursuing interdisciplinary research. So Harmeet Malik was at our department earlier, and Dr. Vivek Jayaraman from the aerospace engineering, Professor Chetan Khosla, he's currently at Stanford from the chemical engineering. In fact, it was a very nice interaction with Professor Khosla when a group of faculty members and director and myself, we visited at Stanford to him. And we were trying to understand the ecosystem of the, Silicon Valley and California, what really brings so much innovation there. Of course, you are all hearing about Google, Stanford, they're all the same place in California around. So what that ecosystem is very important. And what Professor Khosla really mentioned, that every student, every engineer at IIT Bombay should have the basic biology exposure, because that is what will make them really ready for taking the challenges of 21st century and make them and give them the edge, which is, of course, not possible just if you're only focusing on your core discipline and just only majoring in one particular area. Even during COVID-19 time, we had so much innovation, a lot of research happened at IIT Bombay. Of course, I'm just giving you a few glimpses of it here. A lot is already available in our IRCC website. A helmet patient interface was developed. Portable UVC germicidal unit was developed. What you see, Professor Ambarish, he will be teaching you also in quantitative biology. A faculty member, Professor Rinti, and her team developed many of the, very useful masks and devices. So from her lab and late Professor Rinti's lab, a lot of self-disinfecting masks have been developed. Tapestry is one of the very interesting innovation came from computer science department to look into the pooling strategies of doing real-time PCR test, in which way you can reduce the number of tests to be done. And that was actually one of the big news at that time. Our own lab works in the proteomics area to look at the proteins. And we thought, rather than looking at RNA, which is being used for the real-time PCR test, can we look at the peptides and proteins of the virus and try to come up with the alternate ways of diagnostic test for the SARS-CoV-2? And we look at, the same sample which is being tested by the clinician for the real-time PCR test. Same sample, we try to extract the protein using different extraction methods. Using mass spectrometer, we profiled all the proteins, looked at specifically the viral proteins, and tried to develop the test based on the specific peptide sequences of the virus from the spike protein, nuclear protein, as well as the replicase polypeptides. We also look at how the patients are developing the disease severity when they move from mild to the severe form of disease. And we looked at, again, the blood sample and plasma and all the proteins of those from the mild group of patient and severe, and try to compare those and look at which proteins are different, which is getting more and more expressed in response to the disease infection. And we could find some of these proteins shown on the bottom panel here, which showed very huge difference of non-severe and severe. And we developed that as a prognostic test based on the multiple reaction monitoring. Again, some of these things I do not want to talk in great detail, but just giving you illustration that our existing technologies and setup and the workflow that IIT Bombay has resulted into many innovations, and a lot of things happened during the COVID-19 time. So I'm sure that during this particular course, what we are actually intended to teach you is not the traditional biology when you are to again memorize all the taxonomy name and all kind of things which you never liked it, but rather give you more fundamentals, more exposure, and give you more illustrations, more examples in which way different disciplines can come together from chemistry, physics, biology, math, engineering, really to look for the deeper understanding of any biological system, try to look at some of the problems for much larger complex in nature, and then try to come up with a solution. Could be in the areas of healthcare, environment, food. Many of these things are possible. Let's take a pause and let me now take a next poll and try to take your view about next question. All right, so poll is on your screen now. What made you choose mathematics over biology? All right, please do a quick poll so that we can save time. I'll talk to you, Karthik, in a minute. You have raised hand, but let me just show the result of this poll. Okay, so let me end the poll and show you the result. Few people are still not participated. I see 282 of 293 so far. Okay, so let's show the result. And so results are on your screen, which is very surprising actually, 59% people did not like biology because it requires a lot of rote learning. 10% did not like biology because of very technical terms. And 32% actually they liked biology, which is a large number. And you had only option to choose between biology and mathematics. And that's why you had to choose one. So of course, this is now you have another opportunity to still pursue your interdisciplinary dreams, right? And I really remember last year, one student who actually scored 100 out of 100 in BB 101 course, right? It's a not, of course, it's not very tough course, but it's not so easy either that you can score 100 out of 100 in all the modules. And it was very interesting that, this student mentioned to me for doing a project with me that his parents are medical doctors. His brother is also medical doctor, and he qualified for both the JEE and the NEET exam. And he had a dilemma whether he should go for medical or engineering. But he came to IIT Bombay because he thought that at IIT Bombay, he will still get exposure of biology and which is not possible other places. So despite that he will choose engineering, he can still pursue the biomedical engineering or the areas of his interest, which was very nice to hear that the courses like BB 101 or biology basic foundation courses also offered a lot of opportunity to many of you, and that has become one of the preferred course for many students to take forward. Additionally, I'd like to mention that at IIT Bombay, you also get opportunity to take minors in biology course, which is a basket of courses which is being offered throughout your 4 years. After taking this BB 101 course, if you like the subject and want to also take some additional courses to get specialized, in addition to your major engineering degree in computer science or mechanical or whichever discipline you are working going to work, in addition to that degree, you can also get a minors in biology degree, which will be very valuable given the competition and interdisciplinary nature of the jobs. This kind of thing can really make a huge difference. All right, now let me take 1 or 2 questions. Some hand is raised here. So please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Sir, actually, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say that the poll, I did not have one answer. I didn't take biology because I couldn't deal working with living things.
Okay, all right, Karthik. So that's of course is another thing, but you don't have to deal with living things. As you
No,
will,
as in like
as you will see the code
bodies or
and
anything.
where engineers are contributing the most is about the data analysis. Data analysis of
Yes.
biological data set, big data set being generated all the time, which requires huge computational analysis. Also, there is a new fields are developing like systems biology, where there is so much requirement for looking at the simulations, modeling, lot of the network analysis. All of that requires the computational skill. Does not require too much to really go and see the patient, right? So I saw one more hand raised. Somebody else want to make any comment or question before we jump to the next module? Okay, so I hope by now we have understood and realized that why we are taking this course, to really give some basic concept to all of you about the key biological areas. Also, pandemic has definitely made all of us realize that biology is important. But even prior to pandemic, we used to tell students that biology is going to influence you in some way. Now, of course, everybody has accepted, recognized that biology is influencing all of us. So I don't have to reiterate this fact. But again, your combination of knowledge coming from engineering core and biology can make you very novel towards the biomedical research area. And of course, at the early age and this particular very formative years of your career, if you can take some of these knowledge forward and understand these concepts, then probably towards the advanced stage of your career, probably you could embrace the amalgamation of these technologies together of biology and engineers, and probably you could really come up with something very difficult problems to solve. So with this, let me now move on to one example here from one of the student who is doing his research under my supervision and with a professor from electrical engineering, Professor Siddharth. So she's trying to develop some devices to look at how proteins, when they are printed on a small chip, how those can be used for a different type of diagnosis for cancer and other kind of projects. But again, somebody of engineering core who has some idea and appreciation of biology can only try to work on this type of devices. So it may not be possible only for a core engineer to just think virtually and try to come up with a new solution. So he'll just give you a short demo of his work, what he's doing.
My research topic is development of a portable microarray imaging instrument. Now, I want to give some glimpse regarding the motivation. First of all, it is an interdisciplinary research activity. The traditional microdetection setup which we have, these are very much costly. And this instrument which I am developing, that can be useful in rural and remote healthcare unit. And the robust setup requires minimum supervision and maintenance. And finally, application of machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithm is possible in the instrument. Now, microarray. What is microarray? So microarray, basically, it's a kind of a high throughput platform where several proteins are printed on the chip surface. Mostly 45,000 proteins can be printed over the chip surface in the duplicates. So what is the requirement of the microarray? Basically, it is giving us some idea regarding the protein-protein interaction, biomarker discovery, all these things. So different disease point of view, you can screen this particular microarray. Like at this point of time, we are working in pituitaries, colon-adenocarcinoma, as well as the COVID. So these things for the biomarker discovery point of view, protein-protein interaction point of view, this is very important. Now coming to the detection point of view, why this is very important. So as the development of the setup point of view, you need to know how to detect the basically the signal. When the hybridization happen or this kind of a protein-protein interaction happen on the chip surface, then I need to detect that particular signal. This is called the fluorescence signal. So what is fluorescence? The fluorescence is really important because to detect the signal, how you can detect the signal, and one dyes are playing very vital role. This is called Psi3 or Psi5 dyes. So now this is the reason fluorescence, we need to know something regarding the fluorescence. So fluorescence point of view, you can expect this kind of energy conversion. Right, the excitation, when you can get some excitation, impose some excitation in this particular platform, then excite the molecule of the Psi3 and Psi5, that these are called the secondary antibodies, you must say. So then obviously after getting the reflection on transmission wavelength, this wavelength little bit in a the energy of the particular the emissions signal is little bit lower than the excitation wavelength. This is called the fluorescence. Now what happens if the energy is lesser? Because if energy is lesser, as there is a kind of an indirect relation between the energy and the wavelength, like E proportional to 1 by lambda. And if E is decreased, then lambda will be increased. That means if this is Psi3, that means after the hybridization, if it changes its property, then for the detection point of view, you can see that this is my excitation, right? This Psi3 point of view, you can see this is the excitation peak of a particular wavelength. Then emission point of view, you can see the wavelength is different, but particular wavelength is different for the emission point of view. So this is called the shifting of the wavelength. This is called the very technical term we use. This is called Stokes shift. So now the design foundation point of view, designer like you, which I'm designing, when I'm designing these things, I need to know regarding this excitation wavelength as well as the emission wavelength. Now, the traditional microarray setup which we have, why I'm developing this kind of portable thing? Because these are very much of kind of a weight is a major concern for this particular existing setup like the scanner as well as the traditional setup, and obviously the cost. It's a huge costly setup of the scanner point of view, which we actually have in our lab. So this is the reason I usually prefer to go for this portable instrument, which can be actually utilized for the many rural healthcare unit as well, and for its cost will be very much less. Now, in the traditional setup, there are these kind of lasers are usually used, which you can see. This is called the 530 or 635 for the something like the quality checking and for the auto antibody profiling of the chip of the microarray. Then ND filter, why this is used? This is also important to reduce the kind of effect called the photo bleaching. Then obviously the glass light is required, emission CCD, and this setup, which is the traditional setup, usually worked in the practically this is called the reflection mode. So there actually weight is a major concern because of the setup point of view. You can expect a much more space, but we cannot afford it in our setup because we want a kind of a portable setup. That is why we are going for the transmission. So now in transmission mode, you can see this is kind of excitation source which we can use. That can be, might be laser, but laser we cannot use because its cost is that much high. So I am incorporating my setup, that is the LED. Now next thing is that ND filter I will also impose, and microarray chip already told you that how the microarray chip will look like. This is kind of microarray chip. You can see in this way. So this is kind of microarray chip I have to place over there. Then emission filters, how the emission filter also look like. This is kind of an emission filter, which I'm incorporating in my setup. Excitation source, I cannot tell you much because it's in research and I'm incorporating some invention over there. So I cannot show you that. But when I started the experiment, you can see this is kind of a LED's particular matrix I have used when I started to think all these concepts. So step by step, we usually proceed. And finally, the detector. So detector point of view, you can see this is a kind of a detector. This is a CMOS sensor. And everything is compatible with some kind of a controller. So itself inside it, there is a controller is working. And for the excitation point of view, it is also maintained, controlled by the specific controller. It is a very good controller. So now overall system is like this. So how now I want to show something regarding the filter as well. I already told you that emission filter is like this. So it is actually helping you to block some specified signal, physical wavelength, and pass some specified wavelength, because it will actually help you to pass your interest wavelength. This is the thing of the filter we usually use in our setup, and this is kind of an ND filter. You can see this is kind of an ND filter, which I told you that it's reduced the photo bleaching effect, and this is the practically this filter. This is called long pass filter. So now finally this is my setup, which I actually developed in my lab. And here this image I found from the microarray chip point of view. When I place that chip on the surface, that particular setting, this is kind of a setup where I actually placed the glass slide and got the this kind of microarray chip output over there. And this is kind of a image you can expect from the traditional setup. This is called the scanner point of view. So now my target is to that I want to match this kind of quality to this quality. So this is all about my presentation. This thing I have developed, this instrument I have developed.
All right. So thank you, Arko, for giving this particular overview. And let's move on to the second topic. Which of the properties and processes are associated with life? I'm sure all of you see the biological complexity and many of the organisms around us, right? Biologists and many of the experimental biologists, they do the research on different model organisms. Some of the model organisms shown here, like fruit fly, Drosophila melanogaster, C. elegans. You have different plants like mustard plant, Arabidopsis plant, and of course human. When the genome projects were getting accomplished around 2001 or so, it was very much a curiosity that how many genes make these different model organisms. It was very surprising that humans are not very different than other organisms. Of course, over the time period with lot of gene annotation happening, now the exact count is 20,500 genes we have. So immediately the idea was, what happens across this spectrum of different model organisms, they look very different. For example, you look at the bacteria, you look at the fruit fly, Arabidopsis, C. elegans, yeast, and human. When you look at morphology-wise, appearance-wise, they're all very different. But when you go to their biochemical level, look at their genes, look at their proteins, many of the functions of these proteins are very similar. So that's pretty, surprising that they have a lot of remarkable biochemical commonality while they have so much distinct morphologies. Throughout in my lectures and PPTs and presentations, when I'll be mentioning the figure numbers, you can pay attention to that. In your prescribed textbook, which is Campbell 10th edition, which I think you have access by now. So in that book, these are the figure numbers taken directly from the textbook. So we expect you to read at least those sections and those chapters from where these particular segments which we are talking have been taken. Of course, book is very large. You cannot read a whole book. For your curiosity, if you can read, that will be good. But otherwise, from the course point of view, you can pay attention to these kind of figure numbers. As end of the class, I'm going to share you my handout as well. So after that, when you are reading the book, you can start reading the chapter which I'll describe you, and then pay attention to those specific figure numbers and those sections, whatever description is given in Campbell book, so that you can understand them, the description in much more detail. The different type of properties are shown here on this particular slide. For example, butterfly, it is taking the nectar for the energy processing. Sunflower, very beautiful and ordered structure of the flower. Rabbit, the long ear try to cope up with the heat and do the regulation and homeostasis. This, evolutionary adaptation, if you see from the pygmy seahorse, that shows the adaptation coloration, it can just match the color based on the background. Growth and development seen everywhere in plants, animals. Some unique phenomenon being observed in nature with the different plants to cope up with the response to environments. For example, the Venus flytrap, it trap these insects to look for its nitrogen requirement. And reproduction is important for the organism to transmit the information from one to the next generation. So when you look at the central dogma of life, how the information in the cell relays from the genes of which has coded all the information and moves to the more functional molecule like messenger RNA. This process is known as transcription. And then from these messenger RNA, the proteins are being synthesized in the process known as translation. Now, if you are looking at one gene at a time, but rather if you aim to look at all the genes at the same time of a given organism, that is known as genome. And that's what you must have heard about. The Human Genome Project got completed, and now we have idea for all the human genes. Transcripts. If you're looking at all the RNA molecule of a given system, then that is known as transcriptomics. And likewise, if you're looking at all the proteins of a given cell or tissue or organism, that is known as proteomics. My own lab works primarily in the area of proteomics to look at various type of high throughput technologies to study proteins simultaneously at much larger scale and look at their property, their interaction, and potential biomarkers for different type of diseases. However, none of these biomolecule alone can give you all the information. So you have to look at any kind of medical problem or biological problem, you have to look at the effect of the genes at the RNA level and the dynamic protein changes, all of them together, that actually leads to the information at the omics level towards system biology. Because you need to understand a given system, and that's why I was referring that there is a big emphasis from a lot of computer and electrical engineers to try to come up with the system biology field to look at the models so that from the known data set you can build the model and then try to use that model for predicting the unknown. Of course, there is a limit of how many wet lab experiments you can do to generate data. Think about the mutations, right? Like now you understand mutation in virus, and likewise there are different mutation happens in the cancer. So if you are, let's say, looking at a cancer gene, which is the P53, for example, a very influential gene for cancer mutation, and has many mutant form, and you look at 100 mutants of the P53 gene, wild type and mutation, and try to look at it in interaction with other physiological proteins like MDM2 or MDM4, and then build the models. Now, when a new mutation is something which you'd like to predict, then you can make the computational modeling to look into the unknown and make the predictions from that. So again, this is where very important contribution being made by engineers to look at the data at much different level with a lot of nodes and machine learning approaches possible. All right, so let's now move on to a cell and its properties. Some of these things will be like a refresher for you because we are hoping that you have already at least appreciated biology at the high school level, and some exposure of cell and its properties has been given. Cells are an organism's basic unit of structure and function. It has really evolved on the billions of years time scale, as you can see on the slide screen here. If you look at the bigger picture of the cell, for any organism, like let's say human, we have billions of cells. And these billions of cells, like what is shown in the blue colors, each one of them has a nucleus. And these nucleus now, if you look at in detail, they have all the nucleic acid material, all the chromosomes. Chromosomes, now they have the string of these genes, where now you can see the DNA. So now you can see how the information is really tightly packed in billions of these cells, and they have to really do a lot of orchestrated communication so that all the processes happens very seamless. It's like a car when you have all the nut bolts and so many parts there, they have to all work in a very orchestrated way. And likewise, you can think about cell and its various circuits. And there are in fact scientists at Stanford who are doing research thinking about cell as a unit where you have all these circuits, how different organelles communicate and relay the information, how proteins being synthesized from one place and being transported to different place. All of this is like electrical circuit. And it is very perfect. It does happen because all the time, if it does not happen properly, you will see the issue that metabolism at disease level. So that's where I think there's a lot of basic biology has to convert to a lot of engineering and more simulation and modeling based work as well. Let's now quickly look at a prokaryotic cell. I'll just draw a few things here which I have shown on the board. So broadly, as we are discussing, cells are divided into the two main classes, which you are aware of: prokaryotes and eukaryotes. And pro means primitive, karyon is the nucleus. So a primitive type of nucleus is what is the prokaryotes, and U is more advanced. And again, carrion is nucleus. So advanced type of nucleus is the eukaryotes. Prokaryotic cells, primarily when you see in the bacteria, they will lack a nuclear envelope or a proper, nucleus encapsulation. And therefore, the nuclear material is almost floating in the cytoplasm, right? And they're, of course, much smaller cell than the eukaryotic cells. They are different type of shapes, like spherical, rod shape, spiral, many shapes are there. And now these bacterial cells, they are surrounded with the very rigid wall, which is the cell wall composed of polysaccharides and peptides. Cell wall is also having a sticky layer of material, which is made of polysaccharides or proteins, which makes it thick capsule, what you just shown on these drawings here. And beneath this cell, then now you have this capsule and the cell wall, you have the plasma membrane, which is the bilayer, consists of phospholipids and the proteins, which are associated with that. Alongside, you have these fimbriae, which is the attachment for the structure on the surface of some prokaryotes. Also, some prokaryotes have the flagella, which provides the locomotion ability for organism to move. And inside, the nuclear material, which is what is unique here. So these are the fimbriae, which you can see, and then flagella is there. So the nuclear material, what is the most unique in the case of prokaryotes, where it is just free floating in the cytoplasm, and that is known as nucleoid, which is not the case. But when you see the eukaryotic cell, where you have the defined nucleus, and inside the nuclear envelope only, nuclear membrane only, now you will have all the nuclear content, DNA and RNA is all packed inside there, right? So now it's like balloon where things are all free floating, right, in the liquid form. And now you have these ribosomes, which is also free floating. Ribosomes are the site for the protein synthesis, and almost 30,000 or so ribosomes are there, which constitute this particular prokaryotic cell. So I hope that just gives you some recap. The book has this diagram which shows you the structure of the prokaryotic cell. Pro, as I mentioned, the primitive or before. U is the true, carrion is the nucleus. You have these bacterial chromosomes and the nucleoid, the cell wall, plasma membrane, ribosomes floating, and flagella. So I hope by now you have at least got a recap of the broad division of the cell, looking at the prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Given the pandemic, which made all of you sit at your home and do this class, not in IIT Bombay directly in the classroom, but rather at your home, which is of course not very exciting thing, because you are actually losing a lot of momentum of class discussion and class interaction. Nevertheless, we thought to utilize this as an opportunity rather than taking as a disadvantage, and try to give you some exposure directly from the lab for a few things which we would have otherwise have not done. If I was teaching you in the big lecture hall complex in the class, I don't have opportunity to show you the experiments from my lab. In the online mode, let's now do a little bit experiment as well. First, let me show you how to culture the bacteria in the laboratory, right? So I'm going to show you a small clip here, but also I'll get ready to move in the lab in the meantime. So you watch this clip, and then we will show you the experiment in the lab.
So before starting the experiment inside the laminar room, we should first wipe it with alcohol. We are going to show you several steps that are involved in bacterial inoculation and culture. The first step is preparation of agar plate. For this, we need the media, which is prepared using luria broth, and everything, including the media and apparatus, is properly autoclaved. This media contains LB, which is luria broth, and luria broth contains all the requirement molecules that are required for the optimum growth of bacteria, in which agar is also mixed, that is a gelatinous polysaccharides, and help in the as a base for the media. Now the next step is to pour this media into the plate, Petri plate. Around 20 ml of media is poured into it. Let it settle down for some time so that it gets solidified. Similarly, other plates can also be prepared depending upon our objective. Wait for some time till it's completely settled down and cooled so that the plate is properly made. Now, after some time, the solid plate is solidified and it is ready for the next step. So before starting the next step, firstly label your plate. So here, this plate is labeled. Similarly, other plates should also be labeled. Now, the next step is to prepare the master plate. And we can see our plates are ready. And for this, we will use the mother stock bacteria. So here, before that, we have to sterile the inoculating loop and we'll dip it into the mother stock. And then streaking will be done onto the prepared agar plate. This streaking can be done in any shape as being shown in the form of dots or some other shape. Now this plate is done for the streaking and similarly other plates can also be streaked using the mother stock. As we are writing here in the shape of BB101. Now the streaking step is complete and for the optimum growth, this plate has to be incubated at 37 degree for overnight. Now we are keeping the plates in the incubator at 37 degree. These should be kept in the inverted position. Now they have to be kept there for overnight. So after overnight incubation, now we have to take out the streak plate to see whether the culture has grown or not. So these are the streak plates, and as we can see that now BB101 is visible in the way that we had streak this way, and the other plate. In this also the colonies are visible, properly growth is done. And in the third plate where we had not streaked anything, so it is blank and no colonies seen. Now that our master plates are ready, and we can now pick one single colony from this plate and further inoculate them to grow that particular bacteria. That culture can be further used, as we are picking now one colony using a sterilized tip. We will then place it in the falcon containing media. So this is the LP, that is Luria broth media. And now we can see that we have inoculated that particular colony from the master plate into this falcon. This bacteria will be now cultured for overnight at 37 degree. Now we are keeping those inoculated falcons here in the shaker incubator. Now it has to be incubated in the shaker incubator for overnight culture. After this, we'll take this culture for the downstream processing. Now, after incubation, we are taking out these falcons in which inoculation was done. So here we have kept two different falcons in which one was inoculated, and we can see its turbidity, and the other one which is a clear media in which no inoculation was done. As you can see clearly that one of them is turbid, it was inoculated. Now we got our bacteria.
All right, so we just moved into the lab and now showing you these things directly so that you can just appreciate how these experiments being done. So what you see is the laminar hood and how some of these basic microbiology experiments are being done in a biology lab. So requesting now Meher to explain some steps here for the culture here.
Yeah, so right now I am making some plates for growing the bacteria. So these are the Petri plates that are generally used for preparing the solid agar plates for growing the bacteria, as you might have seen in the video also. And here I have the autoclaved media that will be used for making these plates. And then after using the these mother stock, we can streak these plates for growing these bacteria. So I can show you some of the plates that were already streaked, as we can see here. So, so as we can see here, some of the colonies are grown in these streak plate already there. So some shapes you can see, yeah, these are visible. The streaking is there for the bacteria, that these are the already streaked and grown bacteria. And similarly, one more plate we have that we had streaked in the form of, we have written BB101 there, and yeah, it is visible. So these are the colonies of the bacteria that were we had streaked in the form of BB101. So these are grown in that shape only. So similarly, other plates can be made from the these media, and then similarly some other experiments can also be done.
You make
So
a plate.
sorry.
You can pour and make a plate.
Yeah, so similarly, now I am making one of the plate there. So around 15 to 20 ml media we have to pour to make these plates. And then we have to keep these plates so that they can settle down and our plates will be ready. So after some time, these will be solidified, and this media contains LB and also the agar, which makes a solid base for the growth of bacteria. And after these plates are made, we can do some streaking and bacterial culture can be done.
You have the tube for which will go.
No, those, yeah, so one tube I had. So culture is not there right now, but other similarly, we can make small aliquots of these culture, and then further inoculation from these master plates can be done.
All right, thank you. So, well, I hope you got some glimpse of doing some experiments in the lab, which of course otherwise you cannot do when we are in the classroom, right? So this just gives you some idea that some basic experiment starts from here. And then of course, as we go along, we'll show you some more steps of how to identify which type of bacteria we are talking right now. And then we can look at even the staining of these bacteria and look at even various type of characterization in microscope. Just give me 1 second and then I'll be with you. Maybe in the meantime, you can mute some of the students who are raising hand to ask, Alok, you have any question?
It's not a question as such, but it's a very funny anecdote.
Yes.
Okay, so during World War II, there was this how to put it, evil Japanese scientist named Shiro Ishii, who would grow deadly bacteria in his college cupboard, and he used to call those bacteria his pets.
All right. I hope Wuhan lab was not growing the pets like that for viruses. Right? Okay. So yeah. So these.
But that guy, he
right?
once dropped an anthrax bomb on the US, if I'm correct.
So that's why these can actually lead to bio-war and bioterrorism as well, right? These are very dangerous pets to have, right? All right. So with little bit fun, now I think let's move on to the some of the lecture components. And as you will see now, we'll just talk briefly about the bacterial cell wall, and then we'll do another experiment to show what to expect from the bacterial cell wall. Of course, please keep asking questions in the chat because every time I cannot interrupt the flow, but we will talk in between whenever we get chance, right? So I'm showing you now the bacterial cell wall, and looking at the composition of the bacterial cell wall, it could be classified as a gram positive or gram negative based on the staining technique, and because of the property which is different in these two type of the bacterial cell wall being observed. So the very rigid cell wall, what bacteria which provides protection for the bacteria, even that has been now exploited to understand that how the staining could actually work to differentiate these bacteria better. And these information could actually be also utilized for when a patient, let's say, having some bacterial infection, how doctors immediately would like to treat them because they need some sort of antibiotic. And to start with, they would like to do this kind of gram staining to distinguish which type of broad spectrum antibiotic can be given based on the gram positive or gram negative. So these gram positive, they have simpler cell wall with a relatively large amount of peptidoglycans, And the main component of the bacterial cell wall is peptidoglycan, which consists of polysaccharides and the peptides, which is cross-linked. And then, when this property is being actually utilized for the staining, as we come to the gram staining part. And likewise, then we have the gram negative bacteria, which is, I'm going to draw it here next now. And they have the differences as compared to gram positive, where they have less peptidoglycan layer. Peptidoglycan was much more thicker in the positive, but now it is going to be thin in case of gram negative. But structurally, they're more complex overall because they also have an outer membrane. In addition to that plasma membrane of inner, what we see, they also have this outer membrane, which makes like a sandwich. And in between, they have the thinner peptidoglycan layer. Now, this information can be utilized to actually trap these stains and use that for the gram staining. So many of these, observations have really led to the how the antibiotics actually work. Something as common and which you have heard about, penicillin, that inhibits, the enzyme responsible for forming the cross-linking between the different strands of the peptidoglycans, and that actually, stop the synthesis of bacterial growth and block the bacterial growth. Now, this property of staining, of the gram staining, we are going to show you in the experimental setup how it can be done. But because the gram positive, they have the thick wall, and that the stain which we will talk about, the crystal violet stain, that is going to enter the cell and now is going to form the complex, which because the pore is very large over there, the complex, when you are going to rinse with the ethanol, it's not going to be completely removed. And whereas in the case of gram negative, when you have the thin peptidoglycan layer, it can easily wash off. And then you further stain that with another staining reagent, which is safranin dye, which makes it look different and give the pinkish coloration. So let's move to the figure which you have in your textbook, which is shown here from Campbell. A thick cell wall made of the peptidoglycan layer, which helps to trap the crystal violet stain. And this is how the bacteria looks like, finally, the gram positive purple or violet coloration. And the gram negative bacteria having the outer membrane makes it more complex, but a thinner peptidoglycan layer. And further staining, which actually with the safranin stain, makes it appear like the pink color. So let me show you these steps of gram staining, how it can be done in the experimental setting.
Now we are going to demonstrate you the various steps involved in gram staining. Gram staining is the most widely used technique in microbiological experiments. And for this, we need the bacterial sample that we have grown after the overnight culture. And also we have the clean slides. So the first step involved is preparation of smear from this culture bacteria. So for this, we are taking one single drop of the suspension, keeping it over the slide. And then by using another slide, we'll make a thin smear. As you can see here, so gently by using another slide, a thin smear is made. The smear is done for the positive as well as the negative bacteria in a similar way. Then we have to dry it by gently hitting over the fan, as is shown here. Now we have prepared the smear. Next step is to add gram crystal violet stain over the slide. And then we have to keep it for 1 minute. After 1 minute, the stain has to be drained. The slides, the stain is drained. Now we have to apply grams iodine solution over the smear. Now on the slide, the iodine is poured. We have to keep this for 1 minute. Now apply decolorizer, gram decolorizer over the smear, and this has to be applied till the blue color is disappeared. Now the slide has to be rinsed with tap water. Now we have to apply the contour stain, which is safranin, over the slide. And then to keep it for 1 minute. Now the slide has to be rinsed with tap water. Now these slides are washed and then they have to be air dried. After that can be examined under the microscope.
All right, a poll comes on your screen. Okay, so I'll end the poll. So I think most of you are right. Some of you are also quite having good imagination with yellow and green color, which we have not talked. Let me share the results so that you can see that as well. Okay, so this is a quick recap of the steps shown here. You're using crystal violet stain, then iodine wash, ethanol wash, and then you are adding safranin dye, right? And then this is what pattern you'd expect. Before I move on to the eukaryotic cell, let me just try to see if we could show you directly, how these cells appear in the microscope. So let me request the TA here, Avinash, to try and show you how this particular gram staining appears in the microscope.
So as you all can see that this is a basic compound microscope. So, and this is eyepiece and this eyepiece lens and this is objective lens and this is the stage where we keep the slides and this is the source line. So I have linked this lens with this my laptop. And so in my screen you are showing the basically this is the gram staining bacteria. So I use the gram stain. So these are basically gram positive bacteria. So Staphylococcus aureus. So you can see that. So this is purple in color. So I can move the stage. So these are basically knobs to adjust the slides. So I'm just showing the different area of this slide. So it's lagging because there is a software issue. So it's okay. You can see that we prepared the smear of this bacteria and after that the stain. So these are the different area of. So you can see that this is the gram positive bacteria. So,
all right, there will be some echo issue because two systems working parallel will create some problem. Nevertheless, I hope you got idea that how these slides, what we showed you, how they are being prepared, and they could be further visualized in the microscope. Okay, so let's move on and just try to continue where we stopped, and let's move on with the additional topic on eukaryotic cell, because we have talked about primitive cells, bacterial cells, prokaryotic, but eukaryotic cells, they are having the more evolved nucleus and having a separate nuclear membrane. Of course, the outer covering is with the plasma membrane in the blue color, and now the inner nucleic acid material is inside the nuclear membrane. So that is the major difference between these two, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. Now, additionally, this nucleus which contains the DNA that provides the site of DNA replication. Also, the RNA synthesis happens. So the translation phenomenon of RNA, from there it has to happen on the onto the ribosomes to make the protein synthesis, which will happen, and then the proteins has to move to different parts in the cytoplasm. Therefore, you see a lot of endomembranous system in the cell. Different organelles are there, like endoplasmic reticulum, either smooth or rough endoplasmic reticulum. Smooth means which is not having ribosomes, and rough ERs are the one which are having the this ribosomes on the surface. which is the site for protein synthesis. And then these are the Golgi bodies or Golgi complexes, which also helps into the transport of the proteins. So then mitochondria is there, which is the powerhouse of the cell to provide all the ATP requirements. And of course, as we go along, we'll talk about more of these organelles and their function. Peroxisomes are there. And then we also have the microvilli, which can help to do the projection onto the cell surface. Then you have these microtubules, right, which is providing the cytoskeletal elements, the shape and the support for the, like our skeleton, it gives the support to the cell for various type of motor proteins to move. Centrosome and centriole in the animal cell, they are very unique. The microtubules, they are going to grow and they are going to be used, as we will talk in more in the cell division part, and serve as the cytoskeleton as well as the griders of in the cell. The set of microtubules, I think a set of triplets, they are together going to constitute the centriole, a pair of which will be part of the within centrosome. Again, those things we'll talk more when we come to the cell division part in the next class. But broadly, what you see here, there are two different type of cell I'm showing you here, animal cell and the plant cell. We have talked about at least some basic organelle and their role. Plant cell is having some unique organelle, like the vacuole, which you see is very large central vacuole. And they have the chloroplast, which again provides a unique photosynthetic ability. I'll just now be a little quick into just giving you some idea for the different organelle and their function, which we are assuming that you have at least had some exposure at the high school level. But again, if you have not, then you can always read when I upload the handout. So cytoplasm is the the aqueous phase, which is having plus the protein complexes, the material between the nuclear membrane as well as between the plasma membrane, which provides the support for all the other organelle. Cytoskeletal elements are like the our own skeleton, which provides the framework of the cell, position the organelle, and provides the ability for intracellular transport and chromosome movements. Vacuoles are much more enlarged in the plant cells, used for digestion of macromolecules and storage of the waste products. Plasma membrane, as you can see, the outer covering is like, all the external environmental cues will come to the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane will sense from that and then try to convey that information inside the cell. So that actually provides a boundary for moving all the information and receipt of the signals. Nucleus is the most prominent organelle, which is, we have been talking about it, which makes it different in the prokaryotic cell, site of DNA replication, RNA synthesis, contains all the genetic information of the cell. Then the endomembranous system, which composed of the endoplasmic reticulum of SER and RER, they are the site of protein synthesis, especially of endoplasmic reticulum. But then the protein synthesis and protein transport has to happen in a very orchestrated manner, like a FedEx system, when things have to really be in a good continuation, move from one to other place, and where the Golgi complex also takes participation or as the exocytosis activity to move this protein from one to other place. Then we have these peroxisomes, which is having the oxidative enzymes like catalases, which degrades hydrogen peroxide, and various type of fatty acid molecule breakdown happens. This is a single membrane organelle, and most of these organelles are actually single membrane, does not have their own DNA or genetic system. But when it comes to mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell, it is also peculiar in nature because it contains its own DNA, its own genetic material. It is also double membranous structure. So pay attention that only two organelles are there, which is having their own genetic system like mitochondria and chloroplast, and are also having the double membranous structure. We'll talk about the significance of this in the next class, but right now just keep this point in note that this is actually important difference. So all the cell, as you have seen, like just now, the Gram staining can be visualized with different type of microscope. Of course, some cells like the egg, chicken egg, you can see that from a naked eye. So are the frog eggs. But as you start going to the smaller the plant or animal cells or the bacteria, you are talking about 1 to 100 micron scale, then you need these kind of light microscopes. And further, if you want to go down to look at the viruses or different organelle and then different type of protein molecules, then you have to keep going down with more of the electron microscopy and super resolution microscopy. So most of the living cells, these are, don't feel scared from this slide, just different type of images are being shown here, nothing else. It just shows the different type of microscopes can be used to capture different type of cells. And those are having a lot of, biological experiments, lot of meaning of those, how to stay in the cell and try to make sense of where the proteins are localized, where it is being transported. Many of the markers can be visualized. Many things which is being done at the microscopy level. Those provides a lot of interesting information. But for you right now, just important thing is to look at that light microscopy is used for looking at the live cells, whereas the scanning electron microscope or the transmission electron microscope, they are being used for looking at the dead cells. They can, of course, provide you much ultra resolution of these images. So again, let's just quickly observe few more cells under microscope. So now requesting Avinash to share his screen again.
So now you can see that. So these are basically gram-negative cells. So these are E. coli cells. So I'm just adjusting my knob and try to show a different field of this slide. Yeah. So this is basically not retaining the gram staining. So that's why it's just showing the pink color or reddish color. Yeah. So.
Can you show some more slides?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Okay. So right now I'm changing slide. So these are basically shoot of the plant.
All right. So while most of these experiments actually starts from observing them in the microscope and look at what kind of pattern you can observe over there. And then as you want more and more ultrastructural detail, you have to look for different type of microscopy, staining regions, different type of antibodies, markers, and they actually tell a lot of biology about what is happening inside. Especially when it will come to the cell cycle regulation and cell division, we will use more of the microscopy to give you some idea. Also imagine like when you look at cancer cells and different type of cell cycle regulation, or even misregulation, or how even it can be utilized to understand the behavior of the cell. All kinds of histochemistry work and some type of fluorescence based observations are being done to understand these type of cells better. So in the biological experiment, most of the observations, at least in the beginning, they come from these kind of microscopy-based experiments. And of course, it takes just time to get the field correct and make the matching fluid and look at the right resolution to get you the proper image. While Avinash is doing that, let him try it out. Let me continue talking to you about a few more facts. So once you're ready, Avinash, you can again share back. Let me, for the time being, continue. Okay, so can you allow me to share my screen now? Okay, so I think what we thought again as you are experiencing that. I hope you are not feeling sleepy even sitting at home, and we are trying to keep you really entertained in many ways of also giving you the experimental observations rather than just giving you the theoretical which you can get from the books. And there are so many videos available nowadays on the internet, but I'm sure when you see something live, that will probably intrigue your interest and curiosity more to take that study forward, right? Now, looking at these cell observations, broadly, we have talked about prokaryotes and eukaryotes, but there is one more group actually available that is known as archaea or archaebacteria. So the diverse group of organisms, they have been divided into major three fundamental groups, and they make a tangled web of life. The basis of these division and the characterization is based on various biomolecule and biochemical properties, right? And a scientist, Carl Woese, he used 60 years ribosomal RNA to look at the differences across different organisms, and made this, the three fundamental groups are known as domains to classify bacteria or eubacteria, archaea or archaebacteria, and eukarya or eukaryotes. So we have been familiar so far with the eukaryotes and the prokaryotes of bacteria, but this new term has come now, archaea. So archaea is actually in between these two of prokaryotes and eukaryotes. And there's always that particular question comes. They have a lot of similarity with the prokaryotes, but are they more similar to prokaryotes or they're more similar to eukaryotes? So when people look at their biomolecule and compositions of the DNA and the protein, it appears that they are probably more similar to the eukaryotic cells as compared to the prokaryotic cell, because they possess some very unique composition of histone proteins, which is quite commonly seen in the eukaryotic cell. And entangled form of the 8 histone proteins along with the DNA molecule that makes the nucleosome, which is the characteristic in the eukaryotic cell and lacking in the bacteria, but is present in the archaea. So again, the RNA composition, protein components, and the nucleosome, they make it look more closer to the eukaryotes as compared to the prokaryotes. So this based on this characteristics and overall various biochemical features, eukarya, archaea, and bacteria, these are the three major domains of life. Avinash, are you ready to show it now? Yeah. Or okay, so please share the screen. Yeah.
This is basically say.
All right, so you are showing some plant cells now, plant root cells, and how under the microscope one could observe those. Of course, ultrastructural details will be seen more when we are looking at detailed of the electron microscopy or other kind of confocal microscopy. All right, thank you, Avinash. So we'll stop this particular microscopy experiment now, and just let me finish off my last couple of minutes. There's an animation I have, but I'll skip this animation. I'll put that in somewhere. You can watch that animation to show you different biochemical characteristics and biological diversity. But what I'd like to show you briefly in last few minutes about that, a question was being asked that, you don't want to work with the human patients or living organism or the actual biological material. And while we are still advocating you to learn biology, how to do that? A lot of work happens in the bioinformatics area. And that is primarily you can do even right now sitting at your home on your computer, right? I'm going to show you now that how people do this kind of various prediction when we talk about archaea, bacteria, various type of sequence comparison. So you can actually go to these websites like NCBI, when you can look at variety of sources for genes and protein and different type of analysis. I'm just copying you here some of the protein unique accession IDs, which is like protein identifiers, to show you comparison of hemoglobin proteins across different group of organisms. How people try to come up with this kind of analysis. Even in COVID-19 time, so much research has happened to try to understand the similarity of this virus with what origin it may have, right? So now let's say I'm just giving you 5 protein ID, and I'm just searching one by one here. Please look at this carefully, and I think we will give you some assignment from this as well, which will be part of the quiz. So you will search these kind of protein sequences, and what we are looking at is amino acid sequences in the FASTA format, in a very defined sequence format here. And the same hemoglobin subunit alpha now you see from human, now you see from Bos taurus, and now you search and now it comes from Mus musculus. It means the same protein is present in different group of organisms. What is different? What is similar? Hemoglobin is so important for all the blood function, right? Now, one by one, I'm just pasting the sequences here of the FASTA format, because I finally want to compare how these protein sequences of the same protein, hemoglobin subunit alpha protein, across different group of organisms, how they are similar or different. And can we make some pattern based on these type of sequence analysis? These are some very basic bioinformatics which we are talking right now. A lot can be done, even drug docking, how to take the protein sequences and look for a drug, how it can bind over there, how protein with the other proteins interact, how you can look at the phylogenetic trees of the protein, the evolutionary origin of these. Many things can be done using some very interesting available bioinformatic tools. So what you just saw, one example of 5 different organisms, same protein, and we are looking at their sequences. And we are now going to try out additional website which will give us the multiple sequence comparisons. So what you'd like to do, we would like to now take these 5 sequences and go to another resource. There are multiple websites which you can use, but I'll use Crystal Omega to do the multiple sequence alignments. And now what you would just paste these FASTA sequences here for all the 5 proteins which you want to compare. What you are going to look for, how the amino acid sequences across these proteins, they are having similarities or some differences, right? So now after pasting these, when you search, in a very quick way, it is going to do the sequence alignment, and that is multiple sequence alignment. And it is going to now tell you or reveal you how similar or different these sequences are, right? And now what you see on the screen is that most of it quite conservative across the hemoglobin subunit alpha protein is quite conservative across different group of organisms. And now based on these, of course, you can download these analysis result and try to compare in different format. But additionally, what you can also look at the origin of these, from different group of organism. And now you go to phylogenetic tree, and it shows that there are some group which are clustering better together, and some are actually having differences. So again, some of these interesting things can be done on your fingertip. You don't have to really learn a lot of biology to do these experiments. You can learn many things as we go along, and that will actually bring some of the knowledge directly to you to appreciate how people try to investigate these kind of data and learn something in the biological big data set. So before I just close, let me take a question. I think Alok has some curiosity here. So Alok, you want to ask something? In fact, many of you are raising hands now. So let's chat a few minutes before I close my lecture. All right, Alok, you want to unmute, and then Ananya.
Okay, it's not a question as such,
but it's so we are going to have a problem. Okay? So please, if you are in rush for some other class, hold on to your queries. I can respond you back.
It's kind of a problem that I have.
Last 2 minutes of lecture.
It's kind of a problem that I have. So
there's
that.
Let's close the lecture first and then take a lot of queries. I think all of you have curiosity, and I'll be happy to talk to you. I'm also very interested to speak to all of you. So in today's lecture, I hope we have conveyed all of you that we are looking at a new biology, and we are trying to look at a new partnership between biologists and engineers. We have tried to convey you some of the key properties associated with the life processes, displaying the diversity and complexities of the living organism. We started discussion about the the basic format of the cell, looking at the prokaryotes and eukaryotes, and try to show you some experiments as we discussed these kind of topics. Now, I think for your reading point of view, these 2 chapters from the Campbell will be relevant for this particular lecture. Lecture handouts will be uploaded, lecture video will be uploaded. You will have access to everything, whatever we talked so far, as well as the handouts. Plus, additional reference study material can be taken from these 2 chapters of Campbell book, because here you can get the things in much more detail. Of course, only a combination of the lecture plus the study material can make you understand the subject better. Additionally, we are also going to float a Google form every day, which will be along with the video. When you go to YouTube and click on the video description, you will see a Google form. You can actually, while watching the lecture again and while you are reading the study material, when some curiosity question comes to your mind, you can write those questions over there, and we'll try to take those questions in the next class. Because we understand that given the short time and your first exposure to this subject, you will ask many questions later on. So you can actually use that opportunity to ask more questions. We will take that in the next following lecture. Today, you are going to have a quiz in the Moodle, which will be like a demo quiz, practice quiz for you. It will be ungraded, not used for the grading. From the next class onward, we will have the quizzes, which will be for grading. And those quizzes, like the first quiz, which will happen in the second lecture, will be based on my today's first lecture. And as I said, indirectly, that even the sequence alignment which I showed you may have some value to even for the quiz. And we will give you some sufficient, time to practice that. But please be ready for those content to be taken for the quiz as well. So given that many of you have raised hand, let me ask you to unmute and we can talk. All right, thanks so much. So by the way, I'm done for my lecture. If you have to go for the quiz, requesting TS to start the quiz anyways, so that rest of the class who may not have so much question, they can start with that. And let's start talking to some of you who have some curiosity. All right, Alok, please unmute and talk.
Okay, there are two things I have. One is that while you were teaching, I was about to do the quiz.
Can we allow the students to unmute and talk?
While you were teaching, I was about to do the quiz. And suddenly the opening time for the quiz got changed.
I can't hear any one of you. Hello. Yeah, please go ahead now.
Okay, this is a bit of a problem I have. Can you give me a second chance with the quiz, because while I was doing it, the quiz timing got changed, so I got locked out and wasn't able to complete it. That's the first one. And the second is, where can I read up for bioinformatics?
I want to answer this question, quiz question. So no one should go and try to attend the quiz before we announce it in the class. After we announce in the chat and in the class, then only go and see in the Moodle and try to attend.
All right, so Ankit has already answered. Yeah, second question.
Where are the places I can go and read about computational biology?
All right, so I think this can be a good starting point where we are right now, and we will give you some short assignments to trigger your interest. At the same time, as you go along, you can always ask directly, email to me, and we can give you more resources and more websites to work further on that.
All right, thank you.
All right, Nanya, you have any question? Ananya, please unmute and talk.
Yes, sir. I wasn't able to unmute myself earlier. So this thing, one common thing, the bioinformatics thing, I had no idea what you were doing on that site, and it was very overwhelming. I couldn't understand a lot of things. So when you give us some handouts or something, will it be from a beginner's point of view?
So actually, we will give you maybe some a document as well, which will have these protein IDs. You can paste that yourself in the website link which I showed you from NCBI, and you will find it very easy, straightforward. In fact, students from your courses have done a lot of advanced bioinformatics as you go along. But this is where we want to break the barrier, and we want you to start moving from the textbook and seeing the things happening in the research world, right? So we will give you more information to handle that part.
Yes, sir. And will we get a well-defined syllabus for each quiz? Like you said, whatever came in today's lecture. Now, so everything you said will be the syllabus for the next quiz, or is there some extra things you told us?
Usually not anything extra, like especially my handouts and whatever we discuss in the class will be covered.
Okay.
These are more, don't feel so scared, any one of you. We are essentially to make sure that all of you are keeping the pace. And these are, of course, not very high marks, but we want to make sure that you are keeping the pace of the syllabus and studying along with the class, right? Along with as we go for different topics. Okay, Ananya. So now let's move to Rohit.
So the discussions we had today, some of them felt a little too advanced for the knowledge base that I already have. Is there somehow I can prepare pre-hand for the next lecture so that I don't feel the same again?
Okay, see, main thing is, the Google form, what we are giving for each lecture, use that to ask what points were slightly unclear or what looks very advanced to you, or what would you like some additional help from our side. We can always, provide those. Additionally, in my first interactive session on the last Saturday, I mentioned that there is also going to be, of course, as all of you know, there is a tutorial session going to happen tomorrow, which will be 8:30 in the morning. Some of the point you can re-clarify over there. And also there will be additional tutorial will be done on the Saturday evening by one of the TAs who can clarify some of the doubts. So you have multiple opportunities to catch up. And if you find something difficult, you can always write to me directly and we can see where we can help.
Understood, sir. So another doubt that I had was I wanted to understand what kind of questions we will be asked, like how factual would it be from the discussions we had? How specific would the questions be? Would today's mock quiz answer those questions, sir?
Actual quiz will be slightly difficult than the mock quiz for sure, but it will still not be something out of the what I put in my slides mostly, right? And so just make sure that the content which I have covered, you read those with the Campbell book in that context, just so that you are clear about those contents.
Understood, sir. So we are expected to memorize all of the facts covered in the slides.
You're expected not to memorize anything. You are expected to only read and study, and whatever will be needed for memorization, we will give that information in the quiz or any activity which we do.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
All right, Hriday, you're next.
Yes, sir. Sir, you were teaching at a really fast pace, sir. So can you at least give the topics that you cover every day so that we can refer to them later?
Right. See, I think pace is fast because of multiple things. We wanted to show you some experiments as well, which is not part of the course. And we wanted to bring everything in the given time, which we have already exceeded by now. So that's where we are trying to keep the pace. And first lecture having a lot of other information, which is beyond the syllabus as well. So that's where more content to be covered. But if you refer back my interactive session for which recordings are available in YouTube, you will see like I have already given the broad overview for all the 7 lectures, which I'll be covering, right? So you can get at least some idea from there. And as we will go along, we will keep giving you a hint and idea that what is going to come next. So next is going to be cell cycle and cell division. Of course, first you should try to study these 2 chapters which I have referred today. And if you still get more time, then you can be ahead and read about cell cycle. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right, Vaibhav.
So my doubt is regarding that experiment that you showed us. Like I don't know any thing about those chemical which you use or bacteria. So I was so overwhelmed with those things that I couldn't even understand what was going on.
That is possible. That is possible. But again, what we just wanted to show you, it's like a chemistry lab. When you will be doing experiments, you will have many reagents. And slowly you have to know that why those reagents are being used. In this context, what we were trying to emphasize that how the bacterial gram positive and gram negative, the cell wall composition variations has been exploited to look at the staining differences. And one place, the stain can be really captured fast. One place the stain comes out because of the rinsing and washing. But then you need to use another stain safranin dye to stain those cells. So it will take you, of course, one round to go through it and understand it. But if you go back to my slide, which I will be sharing with you, and read back again in Campbell, it will be very clear to you. And probably this was the only experiment when you have to at least know some names in the beginning about the safranin dye and crystal violet and things like that. Okay. All right. Dhruvi. Dhruvi, please unmute.
Yeah. So I also thought that it was very fast, and I was not actually able to register and retain the information that was being given on this lecture. So what else should I be doing for that? It was not possible for me to make notes either.
See, main thing is there are a blend of the things here, some conceptual parts were taught and few things were only demonstrations to give you some idea, some flavor. Everything needs not to be in notes. When we showed you different examples of bio-inspired engineering or how a student does research to make a device, those are mainly to give you the glimpse of the processes, how being done. It is not meant for you to really take notes for every single thing over there.
No, not that
But
part.
at the time of when we are talking about cell and cell structure and cell function and role of different cell organelle, of course, that part you can read in the Campbell and refer back to my recording, which we'll be sharing with you. Look at the handouts. And again, still, if you have some doubts, some things are unclear, we are giving you the link of the Google form where you can write in which slide number or which particular time you have more doubts or some points comes to your mind, which we can try to clarify it again later on. Okay. All right. Alok, you have any other additional comment? If not, we move to Sahil. Sahil Verma.
I kind of forgot what I was going to ask. I was going to ask, I'm in the metallurgy department. So is there any way where I can study the way that I can incorporate metallurgy and biology together? Metallurgy and material science with biology.
So again, you will find many of the materials type of innovation happening. Material scientists working, many of the engineers, faculty members of your department are working in the biointerface. Lot of biomaterials are being envisaged, which is being researched, which is used for bioresearch and nanoparticle and nano drug delivery system. So you will find out. Look at your faculty profile, and you will find many research is going on at IIT Bombay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Sahil. Sahil Verma, please unmute.
Hello, sir. I am Nupur Navikar here. Sir, certainly I am facing some login issues. First of all, I was not able to log in at the time which was given by the course itself, but I logged in late and I was logged in by this name, Sahil Verma, because I am my account. This is not my account from where I have logged in. And I'm
I think here let's just talk about your any specific subject related queries. Other things could be in the
No, sir,
chat.
I don't have.
The TS can take that forward. Okay, some of the logistics like this kind of issues can be taken by TS, and that can be the chat. Here, please ask me any subject related, lecture related, any interesting facts which you'd like to share. Amiya Patel, your time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You said that the test will be, some questions in the test will be based on that DNA sequencing which you did on that NCBI site. So I didn't quite, I was not able to understand.
It was not DNA sequencing, but I just showed you how basic bioinformatics can be done, where if we give you some specific identification for a given gene or for a given protein, all you have to do, you have to just paste that sequence in the NCBI portal. Look for what sequence comes out of it, and then try to take, we will give you the context actually. You will do some practice, then only we'll ask you a question. This is not the everything, whatever we have given you. So for the next quiz, I'm thinking about one assignment related quiz, which I will be giving all of you, a Word document, which will have information regarding the different gene sequences. And then you can practice that on the NCBI. Then we will ask you a question based on that, so that you're already well prepared. It will be very basic and a lot of fun. Once you do that, you'll find it very much easy and very much interesting. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Vishal, you have any question? Vishal, please unmute. And those who have already replied to you, please lower your hand so that we finish somewhere. It's going very late. And I still see a lot of hands being raised. Okay, Vishal, please talk.
So the experiments you showed today, where can I read it in detail?
So experiments were actually just as a supportive thing to give you the flavor of what we are talking. It's actually not expected to read in great detail, but of course, if you're very curious to learn more about them, you can write to me separately. We can give you more detail from any microbiology book or any.
Are the observations of the experiment or the media used in the first experiment, are those part of the course? Can we expect questions from those?
No, don't expect the questions what was shown in the the details of the experiments. Those were just to assist you visualize how what we are talking, how that is actually being done in the the wet lab in the experiments. So not from the exam point of view, but for your curiosity point of view, you can always write to me, and we will try to give you additional reading material and research papers on that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right, Anushka. Anushka, you want to ask a question?
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, I wasn't able to get the many of the technical terms that you used, and also will there be any trouble reading the Campbell, because I and most of us have not studied any biology in 11th and 12th, and also we just studied 9th and 10th biology, that 2 to 3 years ago.
So we are actually, as I said, we are also not expecting you to come from biology background. We understand that you have left probably after high school, and we're starting from there. But as I said, the pace of the lectures and the course at IIT Bombay will be fast. And as soon as you start feeling mature, then by that time you already have a MedSem and quizzes will come. So just keep up the pace. That's important. Immediately after today's lecture, when you go back to read the Campbell or the section which I mentioned, it will become very easy and clear to you. Still, if there are some doubts, you can always write in the Google form, which we can take in the next class. In that way, I'm sure you can keep up the pace, and you don't have to memorize any very technical term for that matter. Okay. All right, Sahiti, or I cannot read your complete name here. Yes. Please unmute and talk. I keep seeing new hands keep coming up. We are almost at 5:30. Please be quick, guys, if you want to ask me and talk to me. Ananya, Kabir, Ishika, Atharva, Om, Harsh. I do not see how many more hands are raised.
Hi, sir. So I wanted to ask, like, I gave the quiz right now. So when will the result be, like the grading, when will that be available?
So as soon as all the students have finished the quiz, I think you will see the right answers.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir.
Right.
And other than that, like, do we need to refer any 11th and 12th NCERT textbooks?
Not required. I think Campbell and our lecture should be sufficient.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Also utilize all of you the tutorial session, which will be held tomorrow morning, to take some of these queries forward so that if there are some doubts, you can clarify that. Okay, anybody else? Kabir, Ishika?
Good evening, sir.
Hi.
So, I missed the introductory lecture that happened on 27th, so I have no idea where the recorded lectures would be uploaded.
Okay, I think we have been sending information again and again periodically to all of you because we understand all of you are coming immediately and you have no idea, like, how to find the resources. So few basic things are there which you should follow for all the lectures. We will upload the video in the video YouTube playlist, which we have been sharing with you. Just go and keep an eye on that. There is a separate playlist in the YouTube for the D2 batch of BB 101. When you click on the video description, you will find the handout over there, as well as a Google form for any kind of questions or query. So that will be self-sufficient for addressing all of your queries. Okay. All right. Atharva.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have been lacking when you are teaching on the website that you saw. I don't understand what was happening.
Do not worry. We will also share you a Word file to practice something. Just watch it again and then try out yourself. You will find very easy. Okay. So that part is something which I'm sure all of you will have a lot of fun. When you go to actual website and all you have to do is copy paste those specific gene ID or protein identifier and look at those sequences yourself. And then you will see how much information you can actually generate from the open access resources. Okay, that will be your first step towards your bioinformatics. But we will give you more information, so do not worry on that. Ananya, you have any question?
Yes, I have medical issues due to which I may miss some lectures. So what is the minimum attendance policy?
Well, attendance we have kept very stringent, but you can always write specifically with your any medical report or doctor's recommendation so that we can consider you separately. We cannot make a single class policy. Yes, please do send along with the doctor's report or any specific information.
All right.
Okay. All right. Parth, you have any question?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I wanted to know if we could find the soft copy of the Campbell 10th edition, and is it available like in Freshie resources? We haven't got a link for that yet.
Have you joined Telegram group?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in the description of that lecture, you look for information TS have provided, so please check that out.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank
All
you.
right. Yash, you have any question? Yes, please unmute.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I had two questions. First is the two lessons which you told to read us. Is it expected that we should read them both completely, right? Means
No. So I have also clarified that there are specific sections like, the figure number which I have mentioned from my PPTs. Those sections you should read completely, right? Additional part like even that chapter will have many other details. Whole thing is not required to read at that great length. But once you start reading, you will find it much easier to comprehend, understand. But from an exam point of view, the section which I am covering will be more useful. So refer those chapters or those specific pages where those figure numbers are mentioned, just to make it easy for you.
Okay, sir. And the second thing was, when are we expected to do that gene sequence thing on laptop? Means.
uh, before next class,
Okay, sir.
right? So before Friday, but we will give you some more information for that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right. Well, finally looks like, okay, last is Kaushik. So Kaushik, we'll end with you. Okay. Kaushik, go ahead. My God, the hands are keep getting raised. It actually reminds me about the lecture halls when we used to teach in the big, lecture complex halls. This course. Just 1 minute, Kaushik. So when I
Sir, how
finished
should
my
I know?
lecture, I'm just sharing interesting incidents with all of you. So at the end of these lectures, when we finish in the BB 101 course, the group of the students curious like you, they come and stand near the podium, right? And they don't let instructor go till you clarify all the doubts. So the group of the students, like, they have all kind of interesting, curious question like all of you, will just come near the board and they'll just talk to us. And that really goes long. And that I must say is actually, very fun part of this course to really talk to all of you. And we have already 30 minutes delayed, but I'll be happy to take 1 or 2 more quick comments. Kaushik, go ahead. Please unmute and talk.
Sir,
Yes, we can hear you.
how should I know whether my attendance is taken or not?
Oh, no, please don't ask me this question. Ask this question in the chat. If you are here, you are present, right? So why you are worried? Okay, Atharva, next question from you. I think you've already spoken probably earlier, but you can ask again.
Hello. Sir, actually, where will the recordings be shared? Hello, sir.
Who is speaking?
Sir, I am Atharva.
Yes.
Sir, the gene sequence that you show on website is a part of our syllabus.
The sequence alignment and knowing about the gene sequence is always part of the syllabus. But this activity I'm giving you for your more exposure rather than everything just for the, learning from the syllabus point of view. But it is definitely part of what we would like you to teach. But when you practice it, you will find it a lot of fun activities, and you will see, like, how what we talk as a gene and protein, how easy it is actually to understand them and to look at more details for those. So don't feel afraid about it. We will give you more detail. Tejas, you have a question. Please unmute.
So actually, I was paying attention in class, but like I couldn't get all the things. So I would like to watch the recording. Where is the recording available?
As soon as you finish the lecture and let me go, I will close the session, get the recorded video, and then upload. It will take an hour or 2, but we will upload that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, all right, Ayush. Ayush, please unmute and talk.
Yes, so you told about the page numbers and the figure numbers that we have to read, but we didn't get the page numbers and figure numbers. So will it
Page
be
number I have
available?
not given you. That is
No,
because
yeah, means
I gave
the
you figure numbers so that you can refer to the right sections. But I will upload my handout shortly so you can get it from there.
okay, we'll get it in the handouts.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Shantanu, please unmute.
Sir, the chat section has been disabled. Could it be enabled?
Well, you can talk now. You know how much chat you'll do, right? I think you're almost done. So what question you have, Shantanu? We can talk. Please unmute and talk. What would you like in the chat?
Sir, I joined the meeting late. I had some logistical issues, which is why I had to ask it on the chat.
Okay, so I think the first class being, we understand all of you are just joining in and having, lot of information which is conveyed, at the very short notice. So possible that you are missing out some information. We are giving you some time, so don't worry for being penalized in the first class. We will consider that. Okay, all right, Vikas. Vikas and then
Sir,
yeah.
Sir, kindly provide the names of the topics which we have covered today in the slides.
so that we can refer the book?
You will have it information. Of course, when you go through the slides, it will quite easy for you to follow which sections of the book will have these contents. And then you can always watch in the recording if you want to refer back anything. All right, Yash. And then Ananya will be last again. Yash, please unmute and talk. All right, Ananya, you have any question? We can take it.
Yes, sir. I wasn't sure of getting a response in the chat. So I wasn't able to navigate between the questions during the quiz. So was it a problem or we can't do that?
No, the questions can be navigated. I think it's a problem of your
Okay, because a lot of other students on the WhatsApp group are great. They weren't able to navigate, go back to the previous question.
Okay, write in the feedback form. We will.
I wrote. Okay, thank you.
All right, Vishal, you still have any question for me? All right, if you have any last question, we can take. If not, we close. Go, guys, now stop it. I think too long we are going. Somewhere you have to close. Vishal, last query. Unmute and talk.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, actually the Moodle quiz has been over, so how can I give it? Because I was in the lecture and...
We have already given you the time at that time. No? I did not made it compulsory to attend my conversation here. We said start doing the quiz. And if still anybody want to come back and ask me a question, you can do that. In case you missed out, that should be okay. But make sure that next time onwards, we will announce for the quiz. Everybody should take the quiz.
Okay, sir.
So the diagrams which you showed in the slides today, are those important from exam point of view?
Well, I'm going to put the handout shortly. And that handout you can refer back with the Campbell book as well. Those will be important. Something which we showed just for the sake of learning and illustration that is more in the video, that will not be there. Right?
Okay.
All right. So that's all today for the first lecture, everyone. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy learning BB 101 biology. And we'll see you again tomorrow morning in the tutorial at 8:30 morning. Okay. Thank you.